When the violence broke out, I was in Kenya and witnessed as the events unfolded and knew who was calling for mass action. The ICC should not forgive me, for I cheered and smiled. Wah! Wah! Uwa! 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 Mariza Garcia wewe. Whenever those I supported attacked our opponents, Mr. Ocampo must be so lucky in the sense that an year down the line, we are still talking of Kenyans being tried at the ICC. If I was a qualified lawyer, something that never happened, since I was born in extreme poverty, brought up in extreme poverty, only to end up being a college marketing graduate and not a university law graduate, I could have fought the ICC to have the real masterminds of post-election violence be prosecuted and not those who rose to defend themselves. If there is anything that I would hate to hear from Madam Bensouda, is the heap of blame being leveled on our government for not cooperating with the ICC to give an account of how rich is the president-elect, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, and his co-accused, Mr. William Ruto. In any criminal case where I am accused of murder and rape, I don't understand why the court should be interested in my bank statement and the extent of my investment. The ICC should instead blame itself for the shoddy evidence and their inconsistent witnesses who have been paid and coached to lie in favor of the ICC. When she took over from Mr. Ocampo, Madam Bensouda shouted to the entire world that she would teach Kenyans a lesson. And with the release of 3 Kenyan suspects, Madam Bensouda, oh my God, you are worthy the praise, is now suffering the worst humiliation ever in her career. You know why? Simply because she agreed to take over a process which headed for darkness knowingly. And it might turn out that Kenyans might instead teach her a lesson and give her a chance for her career. When he visited Kenya during his preliminary investigation, Mr. Ocampo ate nyama choma and forgot the reasons behind his visit. The wonders of our motherland equally drove him crazy as he turned part of this nation and forgot his official duty assigned to him and automatically became part of the international tourist until we reminded him, Mr. Ocampo, wacha upatikane, Madam Bensouda anakuja, of his intended assignment. When he visited one of our ID camps, if I am not wrong, the prosecutor must have only been admiring our beautiful ladies and thinking about settling in Kenya. By the time he received a call from Madam Katerina, Mr. Ocampo had given totally nothing, even from the IDPs. And that is why he ended up paying hooligans to testify as witnesses. As the ICC blames Kenyans for not cooperating, our IDPs are complaining bitterly for being ignored and being denied their chance of being heard. And here comes my biggest question. If the voice and the cry of our suffering IDPs could not be heard, and their interest attended to by Mr. Maurice Anya and the ICC in general. Yet, they are the ones who could make the best witnesses, carrying the heaviest evidence. Then, will justice ever be done? And the entire of Africa have confidence and trust in the International Criminal Court? Well, Mr. Ocampo indeed ignored me. And if he never ignored me, then I am sorry. He never knew that I ever existed somewhere in Kenya. If he made an appointment of seeing me in those early days, the ICC could not be in the shame and embarrassment which it is undergoing at the moment. Madam Bensouda, on the other hand, should stop counting the chicks before they hatch by beating her chest in the sense that she would deal firmly with the 3 remaining Kenyan suspects and equally teach them a lesson. As a nation, we have come from so far, walked over rough terrain, suffered death and losses in the hands of British government, walked over smooth ground like the superhighway, and the ICC is now threatening us, something that we are not afraid of. The world must be in shock. Why in Africa, brothers are rising against brothers, brothers against sisters, and children against parents? This is because in Africa, and mostly in Kenya, every woman believes her sons and daughters are the best warriors and heroes. No African woman, even those who are being swallowed by poverty, would admit that she had given birth to a coward. Whenever I am attacked or abused, I am not only going to defend myself, but also prove to the woman who gave birth to me that I can fight and protect her from any of her enemies. If Madam Bensouda would like by all means to crucify President Uhuru Kenyatta and Mr. William Ruto, then she can do it. If this is going to appease the American government and their British counterpart, but this is not going to solve our problems as a nation. When we went to cast our votes, we demonstrated clearly to the entire world what these two guys mean to us, despite the degree of hatred that some European nations have shown to have against our two leaders. If any decision by Kenyans is God's decision, then Uhuru and Ruto are God-given leaders. The survival of our motherland is now in their hands, and no amount of external interference can take them from our hands. As I said in my first album, we Kenyans know each other since we have been brought up together, attended the same schools and classes, attained similar grades, and knows who and who did what, and who can be trusted to run this nation. The fact remains, we Kenyans are all tribal, but the degree of tribalism really differs. Some of us are so deep buried in tribalism such that patriotism and loyalty to our motherland is no longer an issue. Some of us are being driven by evil, and whenever we act, bad feelings for others is portrayed. Well, I have decided to sacrifice myself for the benefit of the ICC fraternity. But one thing that Madam Bensouda must understand, I am not as cheap as the hooligans, they are hiding in the name of witnesses. A true witness bearing reliable evidence need neither be paid nor be hidden. Well, I am as expensive as the materials I am made of. The evidence, I mean reliable and concrete evidence that Mr. Ocampo overlooked, abused and neglected. The evidence that I have gathered for the last 5 years from the IDPs who are aware who killed who raped who, and who destroyed whose property. If they are willing, the ICC can have the evidence at a competitive price, since I doubt whether they can afford to pay me as their witness. Kenya needs me more than the ICC, and as a small businessman, my customers have a bigger say than Fatou Bensouda and the ICC. Majority of Kenyans would hate to hear me leaving for Netherlands, and that is why the ICC won't afford to put me under their custody. If there is anything that I would hate to see, is the failure to have Kenyans jailed for the crime they committed. The ICC must stop using rumors as evidence and basing their cases against Kenyans on a hearsay subject. According to my findings, the masterminds of post-election violence are still in Kenya, free and enjoying life as if they did nothing. When I met Wajiko in a camp somewhere in Eldoret, her story moved my tears and wished if Ocampo took time to meet her. Those who attacked them and killed her husband came from the neighborhood. They not only touched their properties, but also took their cows and possessed them. Then she wonders, how can you forgive and forget when you see people who have been good neighbors milking your cows every morning when your children are just yawning with nothing to bite? If Madam Fatou Bensouda was to be sincere enough, according to Wajiko, is it Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, all her neighbors who are supposed to be Kenyan suspects in Hague? Well, will the ICC ever deliver justice to the satisfaction of Wajiko and not freeze their financiers? The journey from Kenya to Netherlands must be too risky, tiresome and traumatizing, but I have no otherwise but to deliver the evidence that might assess the ICC to give a landmark ruling. All what I am after is for the ICC to release all the names in the work list of suspects. All the fake witnesses must be released from their custody, and the 3 Kenyan suspects must be released unconditionally. It is a high time that our God-given leaders must be saved from the shame facing them, and have the law and the ICC take the course of justice, and have the suspects in my finding face the law head on. Whether I am welcome in Hague or not, whether Madam Katerina and Fatou Bensouda are led to reason and accept the burden of proof that is not going to kill my courage and determination. This trip is the worst that I have ever had. On the way, I might be kidnapped. The evidence I am about to deliver might be stolen. The European nations and the US most probably might deny my landing on their territories, since we went to an extent of voting in Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto against their wishes. If God is on our side, as He has been with our ancestors and for our forefathers, if we believe, trust, and have faith in Him, then the ICC issue is as simple as David fighting Goliath. This is a war that we must win, and we Kenyans shall never bow down and go to our knees for any pressure leveled against us. If our ancestors did it for our motherland, why don't you and you stand up for our two warriors who have fought their way to the finishing line, and say no to the people who have got no mercy for black people and who have got no respect for our dark continent. Kenya is not a member of the Rome Statute, something which must be sounded louder to the people who have shown discrimination clearly. The analog generation of the people who signed for Kenya to be a signatory member of the Rome Statute are gone and forgotten, since Kenya has already ventured into digital era and is never looking backward to the time of blackmailing treaties. If the ICC believes that I am a member, then it is misguided. I should instead be requested and persuaded to sign up as a member. For those European nations and the US who are pursuing Kenyans to be locked in must be informed it is in bad faith and against the law, and by so doing they won't benefit.